good gosh. Santa's coming. Santa's coming.
Santa, I know him.
Oh, Dave.
Hey, Josh.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks to Brew Point.
We bought it. What do you think of that?
Oh, right.
They just made it.
Michael wants me to go in there and see if they'll offer any type of sponsorship deal for our show.
Let's just send you in there more often. It's okay. So, coffee does taste good this morning. I'm trying to cut back on caffeine, and I was telling you earlier today, this is only my second coffee today, so it definitely tastes good.
Yeah.
But, happy Java with Josh, December 2024, the final show of 2024.
The special holiday edition with snow.
You had snow last year,
Yeah,
too.
this
really
annoyed you last year. You didn't like it.
I'm now more into it.
And so I lowered the transparency of the snow so it's not so aggressive over our beautiful faces. But
oh, yeah, all the dorkiness people are going to love when you're talking about the transparency of the snow.
Oh, my gosh. Here we go. Starting off already. This kid over. Why, yada. I noticed that you were in a pretty festive tie.
I said to my wife earlier this year that I don't own many Christmassy stuff.
Yeah.
And this is about it. This tie right
Sure.
here is about all I got.
All right, well, here, let me show you something. So here is me. All right, we're boosting Josh's volume. So I got my sparkly things, right? Luckily for you, Josh, I brought an extra.
Why are you zoomed in on me here?
Because you're going to get a Christmas necklace. There you go.
Oh, well, thank you.
You don't get to keep it. It's just for the show. I want it back afterwards.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
It actually looks great against your white shirt. So
how about with the Java logo flashed over my head there?
Oh, was it? Yeah, well, I didn't have time to edit everything, so that's what happens. But all right, let's get rolling. Volume, Brian, everything good? You're coming through good over here.
I sound better now? All right.
It's that wireless thing, man. It's just always giving us...
Or it's because you were controlling the boards and you said, less Josh, more Dave.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So...
Cowbell.
Anyways. So it is the Christmas season.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I love is seeing Christmas through the eyes of our kids. We've been sharing... Every week we've been kind of sharing stories of things that we've done with the kids, and I know you wanted to share something, I wanted to share some kid stuff.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, sure. You go first.
Me go first?
Yeah, because you love to be in control, so why don't you go first? Yeah.
Well, we did a few things this year.
Yeah, sure.
My wife put together, this is the second year we've done this, she put together a gingerbread decorating night for the kids and their friends.
Yep.
Meaning, you can see it there in the picture. She went out and she bought pre-made gingerbread houses, more candy than the kids could even put on the gingerbread houses or eat. So when the kids were done eating anything they wanted to and making the gingerbread houses, there was actually a ton of candy left over. But it was a great night. We had a bunch of friends over, and it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. So how many? You said 15? How many?
We had
were there?
9 kids
Okay.
and 8 adults, I think.
Oh, okay.
So the adults did not make gingerbread houses, but we partaked in adult beverages and chit-chatting.
Partaked? Now, what do you think? If I was there, would I have wanted to partooken in a gingerbread house making?
I actually think you would have taken over Landon's gingerbread house and done it yourself.
Dad, I hate crafts. I'm not doing this. Give me a basketball. And I'd gladly step in. Oh, I should have showed a picture of my latest crafts I've been doing at the house.
That can be in the new year.
Yeah.
It's a new year resolution.
Yeah.
Is Dave's making crafts.
Brian would be so proud I know how to use a miter saw now. He'd be like, oh, see, a little tear just fell down from his eye. But yeah. Oh, you also had another story. I don't know. This is a pretty cool photo. I'm curious.
This is a cool photo. So every year, people will probably recognize this. This is from the Walnut Room in downtown Chicago at the old Marshall Fields, now Macy's store on State Street. Up on the 8th floor, they have the Walnut Room, which is their fancy-ish restaurant. And every year, around November through December, they transform it into a Christmas wonderland. And they have one of the coolest trees I've ever seen. The food's mediocre, service is poor, but the family tradition is fantastic, and the kids absolutely love it. So I can't really say enough good things about the Walnut Room.
No, you can.
I did actually.
You said a few good things and a couple of really bad things about it.
The kids love it. We love it. We love taking them down there. But
it sounds amazing.
You don't go out there for a fancy meal and great service. You go because the ambiance is wonderful.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. So a little tradition that we have as well is downtown Glen Ellen every year they do a little, set up a little booth for Santa, and the kids come and get to meet him. And we brought Landon. He was the first kid there, and I think Santa was a little flustered because he wasn't quite set up, but we got there early because we're overachievers. And so Landon got to see Santa, and then they have this really cool mailbox that Landon got to put his letter to Santa in there, and it's just our tradition too. You can't really see it, but he's got a naughty or nice winter hat, and it's like these cool beads, so you can like rub your hand over the front of the hat, and it says
cool.
naughty. So like often I'll rub it, and it'll be like naughty because he's just a naughty nugget sometimes. But when he's seeing Santa, it has to say nice, right? You don't want to send any bad vibes towards Santa's way.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
so
true.
downtown Glen Ellen is just like downtown Elmhurst is awesome at Christmas time. It's just everyone's happy. There's always something happening outside the stores. So
I do love this time of year. I love how people are happy, people are cheery with each other. There's just this extra pep in people's steps, and that makes me really excited and happy.
yeah, and there's lots of snacks around the office, and so we get to get nice and plump.
We haven't had many Christmas cookies this year yet, so we got to increase the Christmas cookie quantity. So if anyone's listening and wants to bring in Christmas cookies, we'd love to have them in here. So
I could call out a few of our clients.
no, don't do that.
because
I don't want to pressure them. So
Don't want to pressure them.
the snow's bothering me now. Can we take the snow off?
Yeah, sure, but first we got to talk about this.
All right, compliance-wise, this is the most boring part of what we do, but every time we talk about stuff, everything we're about to talk on here is for informational purposes only. It is not a direct advice that you should do anything I'm about to say, but you should learn from it. If you want specific advice, we'd be happy to give it to you in a one-on-one setting. So,
Well said, my friend. The snow is off, and also we like to just remind people for first-time viewers, what is Java with Josh? May I take the floor?
please.
Java with Josh is an idea that we came up with a few years ago. I think we are now at episode 20.
Woo.
I think April or May will be your 24th episode. Anyways, it is a monthly live, obviously, YouTube show where Josh and our team of advisors sit down and come up with a timely and relevant financial topic to discuss that affects retirees and those soon to retire. Ultimately, the world needs more Josh Bretl in their lives. So I said, what better way than to broadcast it live on YouTube? Not only live, you can also watch the replay. So if you do not get our emails, go to javawithjosh.com, javawithjosh.com, plop in your email address, and you'll be part of the Cool Kids Club.
Is that what we're calling it, the Cool Kids Club?
No, that's just what I'm calling it for.
Cool, dude.
Yeah. Let's see. We want to talk about upcoming shows.
Ooh, we're doing shows in 2025. Upcoming shows, we try and do it monthly. And like Dave said, we've been doing this for 20 episodes now. This is the most consistent we've been at anything. Like if I could focus on healthy eating like this, I'd drop 80 pounds in a heartbeat. So yeah, this is great.
You know what I'll take? I'll just take you wearing... Brian, we are trying to record a show. Can you please stop sneezing? What's this?
I don't know.
It's so distracting.
I don't understand it.
All right, I was saying was maybe next year you can wear your own Christmas light necklace, and that would be a great little streak that we'll get going.
Yeah, count on it.
All right, cool.
Count on it.
Talk about this, Josh, because you
Own
just
Your
recorded
Retirement radio show.
You recorded one.
If you do want more Josh, not the visual kind, but the audio kind, every Saturday from 7 to 8 a.m. on your AM dial, WLS 890 AM. I am doing the Own Your Retirement radio show with a different co-host, Mark Elliott. This is not as timely as the Java with Josh is, but it does have a lot of great content that is built into it. And we highly encourage everyone to listen.
I feel like it's more like our old podcast where it's just evergreen topics, things that are always going to be important for everybody. I do see next thing on our agenda, psychology of retirement, and you had asked me to make a slide. I got distracted by a squirrel or coffee. I didn't make a slide for this, so I apologize, but why don't you tell the lovely people out there about the Psychology of Retirement film, in which you are an executive producer.
I am really excited by this. We've been involved in this now for many months, and a few weeks ago, actually, we hosted a viewing premiere, pretty much, for our clients and their friends.
Sorry.
The logo was on
I
my
am. There you go.
face.
There it is.
And in regards to this movie called The Psychology of Retirement, the narrator of the movie is Morgan Housel, the author of The Psychology of Money, which I think is one of the best books I've ever read on anything having to do with money. And it talks about what it's like to be a retiree and the thoughts that go into it. And it really resonates with a lot of the stuff that we do here at FSR Wealth Strategies. And if you would like to see this movie, it's not showing in theaters. But I can send you a streaming code. If you can find it online, but they'll charge you $30 to stream it. We have our own links. If you'd like to see it, please email us or put a message below in the YouTube comments, and we will get the streaming codes out to you so you can watch it yourself. I highly recommend it. It's a little over an hour in length, and hopefully it will help you understand more of what retirees going through in this time that we're living in right now.
Yeah, the movie's really well done. Just email info@fsrwealth.com and we'll get it all sorted out, since I dropped the ball and did not make a slide with any call to action information. Info@fsrwealth.com. And Michael will get you a streaming code ASAP. And if he doesn't, he gets one of these. Right? I don't know. I'm just saying.
Dave, as this show gets bigger and bigger, you're gonna have to be careful. That'll be taken as promoting violence.
Oh yeah, no. I'm a loving.
You are
guy.
Love, not war type person.
Yes. Love, not war. Eric. All right. Speaking of love, not war.
One of our favorite things to talk about is the mission statement that my good friend Dave helped us come up with a few years ago. And the true purpose of FSR Wealth Strategies is to give you the confidence to make retirement the best part of your life. As I watch my kids enjoy the holiday season, and I hear my son Alex's words in the back of my head where he says to us in those stressful times, "Dad, I can't wait till I retire." I think it's so we can have more times like this. And I do highly encourage everyone to think about retirement and really this last 20, 30 years of your life, and how can you make it the best part of your life. And so it's not something you're just surviving through, but it's truly the best that's out there.
Yeah, here, man. Before we jump into the presentation, which is actually I'm pretty pumped about because it's a topic I don't really know much about. Shocker, right? We have a lot of people watching live right now. Thank you. So I just want to really quick ask, huge favor, click that like button. I know I ask every time. I know every YouTube video you watch, people are like, click the like button, click subscribe. It's annoying, but trust us, it helps a lot. People who don't know who we are finding our videos on YouTube, and that just is awesome. So click the like button, subscribe if you want to get notified for when we go live again, and thank you. I turn the floor over to you, my friend.
All right, let's get into this month's presentation here. And this is going to be a fun one. This idea actually comes to me from one of our advisors, Erin, and she was talking through some of the things that clients have been talking to her about. But before we get into the actual topic itself, which that was a tease there, I want to remind everyone about the Own Your Retirement planning process, because as we get into retirement, it's not just how do you invest money. It's not just where do you put your money, how do you get the best rate of return. It's how do you think about it from a very holistic approach, and this is where our Own Your Retirement planning process comes into play. And the very first thing we point out to everybody is we're looking at a retirement income plan. We want to make sure that you know where your money is going to come from. You want to know how expensive things are going to get. We're going to talk about that today. Investments and wealth protection. This is the investments. This is the thing that you think of traditional financial advisors doing, but as a retiree, you think about it a little bit differently because you have to spend that money. Third is taxes and tax minimization. Oh, I'm going to try and erase here apparently. Taxes and tax minimization. Taxes are the biggest variable when it comes towards retirement, and people aren't thinking about it, and you need to incorporate that into your overall planning process. Healthcare is a big one. Healthcare is really the area that scares people quite a bit in retirement, and that it has the most unknowns going into it. The last one is legacy and estate planning. Those are for what you want to have happen when you can't make those decisions yourself. Either you're disabled or you pass away. And it's the thing no one wants to think about, but I will tell you it is one of the most important things that you can do. But what's most important is how you tie it all together, and that's what we do here at FSR to help you walk through this process. Now, let's go through and talk about this year, because it's been a good year. This is what everyone looks at. This is the S&P 500 year to date. I just took this off of Yahoo this morning. What you're going to see is that year to date, the S&P 500 is up a little over 26%. That's fantastic. Now, were we expecting that crystal ball wise? Well, we expected a lot more volatility as it comes into play, but this is one of those things that people keep saying the market's going to go down, the market's going to go down, the market's going to go down, it's got to go down. And frankly, some point in time, it's probably got to go down. We just have no idea when it's going to be. But this is the year. Now, throughout this year, a lot of things that we've been talking about, interest rates really dominated the conversation. We had a lot of, for the first time since they started raising rates in 2022, they actually started lowering rates. And the Federal Reserve is in a lowering process now as opposed to a steady or a raising rates. We also had a major election. We have a new president that will be sworn in here on January 20th. And those are the things that have dominated the news. Now, this picture that you see up here is from President Trump's last election. And one of the things that I want to look at and what I want to talk about today is a topic of something that he's promised that he would do on day one, on January 20th. One of the first executive orders that he would sign into law is that he would start instituting new tariffs on imported goods. Now, sometimes I forget when you go to school for finance and accounting, and when you work in this industry, that the concept of tariffs isn't something that you think really twice about. It's something you completely understand. But I've had numerous clients, and Erin mentioned to me, she goes, I think a lot of people are really confused as to what a tariff is, and when he talks about this, what are the impacts? How's it going to impact the retiree? And I want to spend a little bit of time talking about what these tariffs are, as well as how it's going to impact the retirees that are out there. So now, what are tariffs? So when President Trump talks about tariffs, what is he talking about? Now, tariffs have been around for a long time. In fact, a tariff in its simplest form is a tax on any good that is imported into the United States. And tariffs can be selective, meaning they can be against a specific country, or they can be against a specific good or service. So for example, sweaters from Thailand. I'm not saying that is a tariff, but that would be a specific example. Where sweaters from China would not have it. Or sweaters from Vietnam. Or they might have a limit. They say, okay, up to so many units of sweaters have no tariffs. And those are how tariffs kind of work. Now, before 1913, if you listen to me talk a lot, 1913 was a big year. That was the year the income tax code was signed into law. Prior to 1913, the major way that the United States raised money was in the form of tariffs. Now, since World War II ended and the U.S. pretty much guaranteed free trade around the world, tariffs have been pretty much gone. We have not seen them up until President Trump's last presidency. And there's been small tariffs here and there, but what a tariff is, and what a tariff does here is that good that's imported, you're going to pay more for it, or the people who are sending the good to the United States are going to pay a tax. And I started looking here on what are the biggest goods that are imported to the United States. And electrical machinery and equipment is a big one. It's about 15%. Another 15% is computers and computer equipment. Vehicles are 12%. So vehicles imported into the United States are 12%. Mineral fuels, including oil, that's where our oil imports, that's about 8%. Pharmaceuticals are a huge one at 5%. So we import quite a bit of stuff. Now, when I was in college, I had a professor, one of my tax professors, who says, a tax is done for one of two reasons. It is either a carrot or a stick. A tax is there to encourage you to do something or to stop you from doing something.
Is that his real voice?
No, the guy, that was sounded like an old cranky person. This was really like a young dorky TA.
Oh.
I don't have a young dorky TA made up voice. All my voices sound the same.
Oh, okay.
So that was that one.
Yeah, we could have gotten Sean in here. He's got a dorky TA kind of voice. So he does.
Don't tell Sean Dave said that.
Yeah.
So, but what we're looking at here, and President Trump, as he proposes these tariffs, is really looking at it for both from a carrot and a stick standpoint. The reason he says he's going to do this is a couple. One is he really wants to raise money. He has ideas of things that he wants to do, and he thinks these tariffs will raise money for him. He wants to secure the borders. He wants to say, hey, he's tired of he's somehow going to punitively impose these tariffs on other countries, and going to say to get them to do something, which is secure the borders. And he's also doing it against China in what he calls unfair trade practices, where they're stealing ideas and things like that, because those tariffs do hurt those countries more than they hurt the United States. Now, one thing you want to understand is who is paying this tariff. And up here on the big board as we go through it here, I want to make sure we understand a few things. The United States not only imports, but we also export a lot of goods. And so these numbers are from 2023 that you're seeing here. That's the worst two I've ever drawn. It looks like a little worm going through.
Yeah.
But 2023, these numbers are from 2023. The U.S. was the second largest the second largest exporter of goods. I think we're the second largest importer as well. But we imported $3.8 trillion worth of goods. And our biggest imports came from China, Canada, and Germany. Now, our exports, though, were over $3 trillion as well. So that means stuff that we sent to other countries, we sent over $3 trillion. And the vast majority of that went to Canada, Mexico, and China. And so we not only import, but we also export a lot of our stuff. Now, who pays the tax here? So I saw this great example. Dave, we're too young. You know how our parents always say, I remember growing up when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
That was my professor voice and our parents.
Oh, so Sean in 30 years.
Yeah,
wow.
Sean in 30 years.
Okay.
But I remember my parents talking about, they remember the Illinois roads before there was a tollway. And so they used to drive down the expressways and there was no tolls that you had to pay. Now what happened was all of a sudden they needed to raise money and they were going to do it to fix the roads and things like that, and they instituted the tolls. And so these drivers who are driving down the roads have to now pay 40 cents, and now it's up to $1, $1.20 every time they go through these toll booths. Well, to the average person, you just think about it, okay, it's just the cost of transporting and driving, driving through the state. But let's say you're a cab driver or you drive trucks, and all of a sudden this increased your cost of doing business. And now, in theory, what happened is that cost, they could have eaten it, but what happened is they just raised the cost of what they're going to charge the end consumer. And so, yes, that driver had to pay that toll, but the driver usually isn't the one that ends up eating that toll. It's the end consumer. I know if I take a taxi back from O'Hare to Elmhurst, I get charged for the toll that they go through on 294, and that's my charge. Now, U.S. Gas prices, when they went up, I want you to remember that like a few years ago as gas prices skyrocketed, all of a sudden companies were adding gas fuel charges or surcharges to all of their bills. When food costs went up and a few years ago with the inflation, all of a sudden restaurant costs skyrocketed. Now what happens here, the restaurant or the person who produces the food wasn't the one that ended up paying that increased cost. It was the end consumer who ends up paying that cost. And anytime we see that happen, I want you to remember those costs all trickle down to the end consumer. And that's a big economic thing that we want to make sure we're all understanding here. And as we're talking about imports and exports, understand where that comes into play. So what does it mean here? What is Donald Trump proposing here on these tariffs? So first off, he's proposing an additional 10% on all Chinese imports. So we have a high tariff on a lot of Chinese imports already, upwards over 25%. So that means, for example here, a lot of smartphone chips and screens and technology is produced inside of China. And when those tariffs went into place in 2019, 2020, what happened is the smartphone cost went up drastically overnight. And the average smartphone went from $800 to $900 simply because of the cost of the tariffs. So he's proposing an additional 10% on all Chinese imports. He's proposing a 25% on all imports from Mexico and Canada. Now this one's interesting because his last time in office, he signed a free trade agreement with Mexico and Canada that these tariffs, they say, would pretty much violate. But what he's doing here, this is more of that carrot to encourage them to secure their borders for immigration purposes. And he's proposing a 10% tariff on all other foreign imports. Now, what does this mean? So what happens when we do this? First off, we already talked about increased cost. the increased cost that it's going to pass on for everything that we do. So for example, if there's a manufacturer who relies on imported goods from China or from Mexico or wherever it might be, it's going to cost them more to produce that product, which is going to get passed on to everybody else. Now, in the short term, domestic producers should benefit from this. If they're producing the same good here in the United States, we should see domestic production go up. Now, the cost should also go up to the end consumer, but domestic production should go up. The other thing I want people to be aware of is these countries have already come out and said that if the U.S. imposes these tariffs, they will impose retaliatory tariffs. Now, if you remember here, we exported $3 trillion worth of goods. And so if all of a sudden that we can't export those $3 trillion worth of goods, or we can't export as much of it because those countries are now charging us tariffs, our prices go up as well, that might hurt domestic production. And so this free trade here kind of goes both ways. Supply chain disruptions, right now you see a lot of companies that are stocking up on things for the supply chain with the idea that these tariffs might come into place. When things become more expensive, countries do produce less of it with the concept that the United States might buy less of it as well. So remember those supply chain disruptions we had back when during COVID, we might see more of those. And obviously inflationary pressures. We all know what inflation feels like after going through the last few years. And we want to make sure that those tariffs might actually have an impact on us with that.
By the way, congratulations on saying retaliatory on your first attempt.
Retaliatory.
Man, you are. See, caffeine is good for you.
Every now and then. So how is it going to impact the retiree? How is it going to impact our average client? First off, things will probably get more expensive. And that's not a good news for most retirees. Things will probably get more expensive. Tariffs will cause volatility in portfolios. We are an international society, and when we talk about tariffs here, it's not only the imports, but it's also those exports. If we see lower exports or even higher cost for us to export, that will hurt U.S. stocks. And most importantly to our retirees is probably we'll see a big rise in healthcare costs because a lot of our medications and things that go into our medication are imported internationally. So we want to make sure you're understanding those things as they come into play, what those tariffs do mean for you as they go into effect. Now, what should you do about it? And normally I have a big summary screen where I give you these bullet points, but I wanted to come back to the Own Your Retirement planning process because this is a great reminder that this is where the planning process comes into play. And I told you from the beginning, we were going to focus here. This has a lot to do with retirement income plan. Tariffs, for the most part, how they're going to impact you is things are going to become more expensive. So you need to be prepared that you might have to spend more money. Now, if that's the case, we may need to adjust how your assets are structured because of the fact that you might need more to spend off of it. Tax minimization is going to be a key role here. How do we minimize the taxes as we have to spend more money? We're not going to talk about that today. I'm sure we will in many Job with Josh's next year. But another one of his big proposals is the tax impact that's there. So how are we minimizing all of that stuff? Healthcare costs, obviously, I just mentioned that. So we want to make sure, in essence, that we have the cash flow that's taken into consideration all the things that may happen. So this is one of those things where I always talk about is part of the Own Your Retirement planning process. You want to be in control even when things like this happen, even when tariffs occur and the government puts things out there. And that's why this process becomes so important. So, Dave.
Woo, take a breath, sit down to some snowflakes.
Did you learn what you wanted to about tariffs?
And then some, Josh. I was feverishly writing notes over here. Feverishly.
Oh, that coffee
You're
tastes
good?
good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Wow. Yeah. It's if you're out there and you have a question, pop it in now. I've been noticing we be getting some questions after the show ends. So go ahead and start typing those in now. You can always email us at info@FSR Wealth with specific questions on today's topic, and somebody will get back to you. Not me. My compliance officer is sitting across.
Want, to know where he got this cool
Ace Hardware, $4.79. After a tariff, though, it'll probably be like $28.13.
It's half the cost of your coffee that I bought this morning. So
I bought it. Thank you very much with your credit card. So I'll ask you again. Hey, we have 8 people that hit that like button. Thank you so much. Hit that like button again. because people are probably going to be typing into like YouTube like tariffs, OMG, and then like our show is going to pop up, and so that would be good for everybody to see this guy's beautiful face talking about tariffs. No live questions. I don't think we had any email questions come in ahead of time that you saw, right?
Nope.
No. Cool. Okay. Do you want my summary here?
This is what I live for every month.
Do you? Again, full house moment from our podcast right now. The music's playing in the background. Everything here. I'll get the snow off for you. So it's been a pretty good year, huh? Oh, what? You want to say something?
No, I feel like I stare at you weird
Yeah.
in this. I don't know where I should look, and as you're still talking, I just kind of stare at you like lovingly.
I'd stare at you for like full 25 minutes and
Yeah.
just give you googly eyes. You don't even notice it. But so it's been a pretty good year, Josh. Right? That's kind of what I'm gathering here from sitting here listening to you ramble on for 30 minutes every month. And some changes are coming, and we're probably going to see some pretty significant tariffs coming here soon, which will make things more expensive. But like everything else, if you plan for it, we're good to go.
I hope that's a great summary.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for listening.
I do. I listen well. So what else we got going on here?
It is Christmas time. I have a Christmas luncheon today, which is exciting. There's just snowflakes on the screen.
Yeah, no,
which is scary.
I broke it. Yeah, now we're good.
No, it's Christmas time. I wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays if you're not celebrating Christmas. And I look forward to our first Java with Josh in the new year.
Yeah, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa. How about we just all be happy and merry and don't have shoulder surgery like Brian just had because, well, he's a tough dude. He's back at work the next day because he is the man.
It was like 4 days.
I know. And, and then he sneezed live on camera, which was super rude, and I'm never going to forgive him for it. But, all right, go enjoy your family. Enjoy your time off.
Cheers.
See you in 2025.